Hi guys, welcome back to the Think About It podcast. I'm Nisi. I am so excited to have a safe space to speak our truth or to find it. So come on in for however long I have you here or however long I have your ear. Now let's think about it. Hey you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Think About It podcast with your girl Nisi. You excited? I'm way more excited than I was last week. I was definitely excited to start the podcast, but I feel like I'm a bit more prepared. But y'all, bear with me because again, the second I'm like ready, okay, got all my notes, got all my lighting, everything is ready to go. Now I'm having a problem with not my audio, my headset, but the um, the microphone itself, I guess you can say. So bear with me. I do not want to have any more like that loud echoing in the back. I don't want to have all those cutouts. So if you see me kind of looking down, stopping and pausing, you might not see it if I edit it out. If I don't edit it out, that's what I'm doing. Just kind of watching, monitoring my voice, and just making sure we're up and ready to go. Okay, but we're good right now, so let's just get into it. Okay, how are we doing, y'all? Again, welcome to another episode, another podcast, another week to speak your truth or to find it, another week to figure some things out, another week to get better at something, another week to do something better, another week. Hello, somebody. Because listen, there's so many people, y'all, that did not make it. Another Wednesday. Just get straight into it because I felt like I lost time trying to figure everything out. But y'all, I wanted this podcast, y'all, this week podcast to kind of be able to kind of like see my personality and to get into like the funny part, like the fun parts of everything, right? But y'all, it's not working like that. It's not giving that this week, y'all. I felt like it was something that I'm is a part of my everyday routine that I wanted to speak about when I first like I guess that's one of the reasons why I really want to do my podcast, right? But at the same point in time, I didn't want to get like too serious, kind of like first getting into the podcast. But again, I told y'all I'm in my purpose. I'm following God, and when He's on me, you understand me? I'm not gonna give Him 2 and 3 chances to knock. I had that first knock now. Nowadays, y'all, I just gonna run it. Say less. I don't have time for it, okay? So this week podcast, y'all, would kind of just be around, and again, I do apologize. I'm also looking down at my notes as well. But this week podcast is why is self-love development so important, right? Again, I had a whole different topic to come to y'all with so we can kind of just kick back and be goofy, right? But, when the time permits itself to be goofy and shoot the shit, we gonna do that. But today, y'all, we getting into some serious stuff. It's still gonna be juicy, it's still gonna be good, it's still gonna be but it ain't gonna be what I want it to be. Y'all eyes gonna open, y'all gonna be like, what? Like, wait a minute. But it's still juice, honey. And I quite frankly, I think that juice is better. Okay, so my or the podcast is going to be kind of like broken off into different segments of the podcast. So we're going to have a little intro, or we're probably, well, you already seen the intro, but we're going to do an icebreaker. Of course, we're going to start off with an icebreaker. Then we're going to get into our discussion or topic. We're typically going to have 1 to 2 topics in a podcast, and then we're going to get into a did you know segment. I think that is so important, y'all, because listen, I was trying to do some research and pull up some did you knows, like things I didn't know. And when I tell y'all, I already got a list of things, at least for the rest of this month and next month. And I'm like reading it like, what? I know you fucking lying. I ain't never know that. So that's important, y'all. We gotta know some things, okay? We gonna figure out some things and learn about some things. And then we're gonna end it off with a word of your day. When you hear the word of the day, what's going to happen is the first person to not email, but DM me on Instagram. I'll go ahead and put my IG down in the comments on YouTube, or in my description on YouTube, and also in the description on podcast as well. So the first person to type the word or send the word of the day, the exact word of the day, verbatimly, okay, to my DM, you would get a treat. You know what I mean? Don't, it ain't gonna be nothing crazy. Listen, I'm trying to find my purpose, and hopefully my purpose is in you also successful as well. But right now, honey, she is working, okay? So y'all gonna get a little 10, 15, $20 here. On a good day, you might get 50, depending on what the conversation is about, depending on how I'm feeling, depending on how much money I done made the night before, okay? Let's talk about it. So, like I said, you guys had already seen the intro. Welcome in. Don't forget, y'all, to tell a friend, to tell a sister, tell a brother, tell a cousin, auntie, niece, nephew, great, great, great auntie to tune in, okay? So let's just get into it. We're going to do a icebreaker, okay? So, y'all ready? The icebreaker, y'all, is what is the most embarrassing thing happened to you on a first date? What is the most embarrassing thing that happened to you on a first date? Y'all, let me tell y'all. Okay, so I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember my left big toenail. It split, like the whole thing didn't come off, but the majority, like it was kind of like half half. It was honestly, y'all, 90% of the nail came off of my like my natural nail, y'all. Right, so it came off. Boom. I had a date, y'all, that weekend. So I'm over here, y'all, like, y'all. And this was at the time, y'all, like, I was young, like, I'm finna go get some food. What you talking about? Like, I need to go eat. So I need to make sure that, I'm looking how I'm looking. So my toenail, y'all, it came off. I think it split or something. And I went and got my nails done, my toenails done. So, they added, like, the acrylic, like, the extra acrylic, for your toe to kind of form an actual toenail. So, they did that. So, boom, fast forward to our dinner date. So, we went to dinner, and, the conversation was good. Honestly, y'all, I was really feeling the conversation. At first, I was like, I had to really look at them. Y'all know how, child, I look at the menu like, I'm gonna order this, I'm gonna order that. So, I was ready to eat. But the conversation, honestly, y'all, was so good. Like, I really was interested. And let me tell y'all, it was one of those like those tables that have like the little stand like in between, like that kind of holds up the table. That actual, y'all know what I'm talking about. That little piece that holds the table up in the middle. And my foot, like I had like I wore like an open toe heel, and I hit my toe kind of like on that center part, y'all. And it was like I automatically knew something wasn't right. The minute I hit it, I just I felt like that. I felt the nub. Like anything, I was feeling numb. I didn't feel no nail. Like I was trying to like push like my toe on that center part to see if my toenail was still there. Bitch, I ain't felt nothing. Look, and he is like, he was well off. You know what I'm saying? Like he was doing good for himself. So he had his shit together, okay? And I'm over here, y'all, I'm like, he's talking, and all I'm thinking about is how the fuck I'm gonna get up out of this, y'all, because I wore it was an open toe. Like it had like a little strap kind of like over it, kind of like a little buckle to kind of like buckle. It was like, the most basic stiletto, high heel stiletto that you can wear open toed, y'all. And when I tell you, I was so freaking embarrassed. So let me tell you how I got up out of it. Look, y'all, I literally y'all know I pulled the 1-2 hit a move. So I text my friend. I was like, hey, call me right now. I said, call me right now. And when she called, we did this before, honestly. So the way I put it, I put exclamation marks. Like I put like a bunch of them behind each other, like now. So she called me, and I don't remember what she was saying, y'all, but she was like yelling to the point where, I spoke to him after the fact. He was like, oh, I heard. He was like, he was so concerned. So when she called me, y'all, I acted, y'all, like I had the biggest fucking emergency. I didn't say I think I was like, I gotta go. And I just got my bag and I kind of ran up out of there, y'all. But I low key, y'all, I was so embarrassed. Now, hold up. Tell me, y'all, when he got up, so I was trying to run up out of there. When he got up, I heard something crack. I heard something crack. Y'all, I'm almost positive. Like when I hit my toenail, my nail like kind of like shot up like under his feet, like close to his chair. So when he got up, he like crushed the toenail. But at that point, y'all, I was so much in a bitch get out of here, move, because he is not gonna see my toe like this, y'all. Girl. Baby, I was out of there. You hear me going like the wind, honey. So boom, that is probably one of my most embarrassing um things that happened to me on the first date. All right. So y'all, let me know, let me know y'all experiences. Like what happened to y'all? Like what's the most craziest thing y'all that happened to y'all on the first day? And when I tell y'all, I'm not even playing y'all. My toe, it was numb. Oh, that's what it was. It had like a, kind of like a, it was infected. So it had like a little, like a dark spot on top of it too, which made it even worse. You get what I'm saying? Like this, he would probably been like, "What is this bitch over here like thinking she cute with her old nubby ass, dirty ass, rotten ass toe?" Like, no, baby, not happening. So that was my most embarrassing thing to happen. But y'all, let's just go ahead and get into this topic, y'all. I'm so mad I even remember that, cause baby, I think I even cried in the car and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this happening to me. Okay, so let's get into it. The topic of the day, y'all, is why is self-love / development so important? Why is self-love, self-development, why is that so important? And like I said, y'all, I think it was, this topic has been in so many ways. I watched, I think I said this before, I watch a lot of podcasts, a lot of videos and stuff, and throughout conversations, I heard this topic come up so much. This is a conversation, if you kind of scroll down or look through my YouTube, I mentioned, I kind of spoke about this, probably a year ago or almost a year ago now. I've started, or I've been on an intentional self-love journey for the last 4 years. Almost 4 years. April will be 4 years since I've been intentionally on a self-love, self-development journey, right? And I said this before, last week audio episode, where I said, I feel like a lot of times, that conversation about self-love has been coming up like lately for the last 2-3 years, right? And I think it's popular. Like, anytime something's popular, everybody wants to be on it, right? So, everybody have that, everybody's drinking out that clear, y'all know that little clear glass you make coffee in. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be on trend. The pampas grass. Everybody wants to be on trend, right? And there's nothing wrong, guys, with being on trend. If that's something that, you actually can say, you know what, I like that. I've never seen it before. And the minute you see it, it's like, I actually like that. Like when it's out of trend, or if somebody does not bring it up, if your group of friends don't like it, you still like it because that's something that you're connected to. And I think for me, my self-love journey had nothing to do with popularity or what's on trend. But what happened was I got to a point in my life where I didn't even know that it was important. I didn't even know that I had to actually, I didn't know that, this self-love journey or self-reflection or whatever it is was even a thing, okay? You guys, sorry for the extra plugs over here. This is the audio, my headset that I have kind of to hear myself. It'll get better within time, y'all. If y'all remember last week, I could not hear myself and I refused to not hear myself. So we gonna give a little ghetto season around here. That's what it is. But yeah, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know the meaning of it, but I got to a point, or the reason why I started my self-development journey, or how it happened. Let's talk about how it happened, right? And then I guess we can kind of get into why it is so important. But what happened for me was I just came out of a off and on 4.5-year relationship. Prior to that, I'm talking like probably a month or two, I was in a relationship for 5 years, 6 years, I think, 5-6 years. And we were also engaged in my previous relationship prior to my last relationship, if that makes sense. And I got to a point, y'all, where, okay, so I went through two very toxic relationships. One abusive, another one verbally abusive. One was verbally abusive. Which after that, I felt like that relationship was more verbally and emotionally, and mentally abusive. I think so, and I think a lot of times what I had to learn was, especially when you grow up, in the hood, like people say, or when you grow up with the background and the um, family or lack of family that I had or didn't have, um, you don't you don't nobody teaches you about verbal abuse. Nobody teaches you about emotional abuse. A lot of times we just think that's just like a pussy way of getting out of some shit, or a pussy way to not have a backbone. I think, if that makes sense, you get what I'm saying? Like, oh, if somebody said to do, say something back, and that's how I was raised, right? But verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and mental abuse is such a thing. So now, how did I get on my self-love journey, or how did I get on my self-development journey? After leaving those relationships, or honestly, I think it was, to be honest, it was in the process. Not necessarily my first um, relationship, or the relationship that I was more so abusing, but I felt like in my second relationship was where like my eyes started to open, or when certain things just was like it was like red flags and question marks kind of going off everywhere. Like I was just in a confused ass place of like, wait, what the fuck is going on? And I think what happened in that relationship, or the reason why, or what triggered me to get to the point of self-love and self-development and finding my purpose and even getting closer to God, I think what happened in that relationship was, it was so different, it was so unfamiliar, but then familiar at the same time, to the point where I knew that going through definitely was, big, right? Or dealing with the stuff that I went through was big, but I felt like in those instances, or in those times that I was going through what I was going through, I always felt like it was something bigger. But I think because I was in the moments of it, or because I was in the place of, oh, I love him, or I'm in the place of, you know what I'm saying, like, I'm a single mama, so listen, I gotta figure out, this is what worked for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, he work, I work, and this is how we're able to pay the bill. So, my focus was just so on self and what I was going through in my, I guess, in the moment. Like, I was kind of living in my moment, so I didn't get to kind of realize what God was doing, and was he present? And I think a lot of times what I've learned now in hindsight, that God was always there. That even in those experiences where I was getting my behind, I'm talking like, y'all, I'm looking like a child. Well, I don't want to, that's kind of offensive, but one of my eyes, y'all, was like, I'm squinting. Like, the left side of my face looked like a complete different person on the right side of my face. I'm talking like I had blood shots like in my eyes. I got marks and scars, being in an abusive relationship, and then into the verbal relationship where I'm getting tiny things called. Like, I felt like it's so crazy, and I know I'm gonna go off track just a little bit, but I felt like, and I remember saying it when I got into a relationship where it was like this bickering thing. Like, we were always back and forth. I felt like it was like the things that this person was saying to me sounded like things that a female that don't know me, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody that don't have, like, didn't lay with me. We never lived together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your kids is not around me. My kid isn't around you. It felt like a chick on the street that I would go back and forth with. You get what I'm saying? And I think for me, all of those, y'all, was just experiences that I was having based on my childhood. Like, I had those experiences based on my autobiography, based on, or not my child autobiography, based on what I was raised in, if that makes sense, right? So, long story short, you guys, fast forward to the reason why I guess I got on my self-development was, I got to a point, y'all, where I got tired of myself. I got to a point, y'all, where in the moment I thought that to get over this relationship, or I was trying to, make myself better to not feel this pain or not feel this void that I was missing. Even though the relationship what it was, I thought that in my mind that before I got to the point of self-development, I just thought that I got tired of, I thought it was like what I was dealing with. I thought that I got tired of people, like men, cheating on me, or I'm a dude saying this to you or saying that to you, or me coming out of character and doing things that I don't like to do. You know what I'm saying? This is what I thought it was. You know what I'm saying? And how my development started, I think, was I feel like your self-development, self-love has to do with your purpose. Like, you don't get to a point of self-development and wanting to actually do the work and being intentional on doing the work if God does not have that wrapped into your purpose. I feel like it's kind of like it goes hand in hand. You get what I'm saying? Because I've learned, and I know for a fact that with my self-development, with my self-growth, with my self-love, it naturally brought me to God, right? I think self-love is, just that loving yourself, but not the parts that people talk about, you know what I mean? Or the parts that we want people to see. And the actual meaning of the core meaning of self-love, I feel like it's God. If that makes sense. I feel like the core meaning of self-love is to love God. But in order sometimes for you to be able to love God, you have to figure out, how are you loving yourself and how are you showing up for yourself to find that connection to God, if that makes sense, right? And I'm sure y'all know that saying, like when people say, like, when an airplane is going down, do you put the mask over your mouth or over your child's mouth? They always tell you put the mask over your mouth first, because if it's not over your mouth, how are you going to be able to live to even put that mask now over your child's mouth, right? Or how do you if you put that mask over your child's mouth and not your mouth, within that time period of you doing that, that oxygen, you're just losing away. You could literally be on that last breath whilst you're doing this, and now who's going to fend for your child, right? So I think, to kind of play back to what I was saying, was I had to learn how to put that mask over myself first. I had to learn what's the meaning of how I'm loving myself, and what is it that I'm breathing in, and what I call love. Is this healthy love? Is this something that I should be breathing in? You get what I'm saying? And after I started to break those down, then, and it's so crazy where you start to get into some things, y'all, some deep-rooted things, and then you're like, wait, hold up, I ain't want to do that. Or it's just, I feel like God calls you. When you start to look for things, right? When you start to look for things, you naturally start to find it, right? Like when you go under your couch, or you're looking for your car keys, you're looking for your car keys, but whilst you're looking for the car keys, child, you find that $5 that you was looking for last week and you didn't even know was there, because you're looking for it, right? You found that hair clip that you didn't even know fell under the bed. You didn't even know it was missing, because you were looking. You were in a place of looking. So because you were in a place of looking, God started to just, add certain things that you didn't even know that you needed, right? So I think for me, I got to a point, y'all, where at first, yes, I thought that it started off with me. And I remember coldest day, just as yesterday, like it happened yesterday, me sitting on my couch, and I was like, just not really staring out the blind, like the blind was closed, but I was like looking in the direction of the blinds, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I just kept asking myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And at that time, I think it was more so, I thought that it was, why am I creating or having the relationship that I'm having, or why am I feeling like this about a person that I know is not giving me my 100% worth, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, within the arguments that we had, there's females that's now playing involved, and now I'm arguing with them, and they're, we're going back and forth. We're throwing our jazz, and bitch, you ain't this and you ain't that. So now it played on me So now I'm like, okay, am I doing things, as far as like financially? Why, why am I not this and why I'm not that? So I started to search for these things. You know what I mean? At first, it was just more of, me trying to, a lot of times, like I tell people, your words definitely play an effect. And I'm the type of person, I tell people all the time, I don't care what nobody say about me. I don't care. I don't care. And I really, at some point, I don't care, but on the other aspect of it, I do care, if that makes sense. So it was things that, females were saying, or he was saying that touched, that woke something up in me. You know what I mean? So now I felt like I thought that it was me searching for these things. At first, that's what I thought, right? No, at this point, not really a connection to God, right? Not necessarily a connection to God. Now, with that being said, I think it's important or imperative that I say that I grew up in a religious background. I grew up as actually a Jehovah Witness. My grandmother she's a Jehovah Witness. My grandmother raised me. My mother had me at 13 years old. So, of course, she wasn't raising no kid over here. My grandmother raised me in her household, and honey, the entire household is a witness. So you naturally, you're going to be a witness. So yeah, I definitely grew up in a religious background, but at that point in time, even though I grew up in a religious background, the connection, or for me even trying to find God or ask God for his help in those moments of what I was going through, not really. I probably said, God help me, like, but not really in tune and aware of what it is that I'm asking for, what I'm saying, and where I'm at right now in my life. It was definitely not there. So I got to a point, y'all, where like I said, I just started outsourcing, like trying to find things as far as like my business. I thought that's what it was at first, right? And in those moments, y'all, remember, at that time, I think I probably was separated for probably 6 to 7 months, about 8 months. Within Now, in those moments before I started, like, I felt like God, like, not even God, I started to listen. I got to a point in my life, and I've learned that, shout out to Sarah Jakes, this is not my quote, this is hers, but you know, transformation happened in isolation, when I allowed myself to be isolated. But within that time, before I allowed myself to be isolated, I didn't even want to think, I didn't want to feel. So all in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get back. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna let him bother me, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. But in all actuality, a lot of times we our first instinct is to say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to, but that's exactly what you're going to do. So we get dressed up, we get cute, and we go out and we take pictures and all that. But we know damn well it's really not even for us. We're allowing somebody else action to dictate our reaction. And that's what I did. So within that time of, before I got to, I feel like my first calling, or that first awareness sign, I actually had got I had got some money back from a car accident, y'all. It wasn't nothing crazy, but I used the majority of that money, in hindsight now, trying to get back at him. In my mind at that time, in that moment, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just not gonna let him push me over the edge, right? But I also knew that a lot of my actions and things that I was doing was to kind of get a reaction out of him, right? So basically, I wasted so much time, and that's okay. I feel like a lot of times in those moments, you have to, I go back and I, kind of do a little recheck. Okay, Nisa, you did not have to do that. You know what I'm saying? You go back and you kind of do a little recheck, right? But again, I don't regret none of those experiences because it got me to where I'm at now. So boom, I got to that point. Now of, okay, something's not going on. Like, what am I doing with this taunting feeling of, what is it that I'm doing with myself? What am I doing? And I remember this. What happened was this was like right after COVID. No, this was, yeah, right after, the pandemic kind of like took off. Like, we were in the house, as y'all know. Like I told you guys, I work in the restaurant field, so my job was probably one of the the main ones that suffered. So I remember being at home. I think I went out to Walmart or Publix. I went to Walmart, and I had like a good amount of groceries in my cart. And I remember this guy like kind of like walking by, and he was like, "Hey, can I pay? Can I pay for that?" So I said, "For what? You want to pay for something out of here?" And he was like, "No, I want to pay for the whole thing." So I was like, "Say less." Honey, it's the pandemic. You can do what you want with your money. What are you talking about? You know? But, you know, I'm sure we have females out here, you know, we as a, you know, some of the women, we can tell, or when you have an eye, or when you're looking for certain things, you can spot it a mile away. So I knew he was a dope boy. I just knew it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, spend your money, do it. And with that being said, I remember, I want to say like within the week or two, you know, we kept up. You know, he came, kind of like checked on me, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But I had this feeling of like, okay, well, if he did this, now I have to do this for him, if that makes sense. Okay, if he did this, I got to do that. And I remember, um, you know, us, you know, doing the do, and it was nothing, like I didn't feel, he was doing his thing, but I had no connection to it. It was just like I was there. And all in my mind is like 1,000 miles back this way. Like, what the fuck is you doing? Like, that was it. Like, that's when you know, I've been hearing, what is you doing? What is you doing? But when I got to that point and I'm laying down and I'm like, what are you doing? And I remember, y'all, like it was yesterday. He got up, you know, got himself together, you know, he left, and he was like, you know, I'm gonna call you. And he called me, but when he called, I did not pick up. Y'all, I was like, what? Like, I was like, what the, like, did you just do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was my mindset. This was my thought process at that time. That's what I learned. I feel like I've learned that I don't have self-control. I learned that when certain things is convenient in my life, that I can rebuttal some shit that I was not having last week, but because it's convenient for me, let's make it happen. I learned that, right? But how I got there, it wasn't just because, you know, yeah, that happened. It was like, oh, a light bulb went off. That's not what happened. I think what it was when that situation happened, I realized like, okay, boom, I didn't feel nothing. Then I was like, okay, T, so you allow, like, I started to be honest with myself. I got to the point, y'all, where I started to be honest with myself. I think a lot of times people do not understand people want the self-love, they want the self-care, and everything that comes with it, until you have to do the deep down, dirty ass work. Okay? Self-development is not pretty. That's why, and I understand, you know, a lot of people that don't want to do it. Some people don't even want to talk about it. You get what I'm saying? They don't even want to hear the word because they like, you know what I'm saying? And when you're not at a place of accepting and wanting to change, that is a tough ass conversation, honey. I would find a Da Vinci Code before I sit there and try to figure out some damn self-care and development. Hello? So, you know, that's definitely understandable, but I got to a point, y'all, where, like I said, with that situation, where it was like I was sitting there and I was like, so you just did that because it was convenient. And then it was like, you know, and I remember, y'all, saying to myself before that, I was like, T, you not, don't do it. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And, you know, he came, and the minute I knew what it was that he wanted, and I did it. So then I realized, okay, you don't have self-control. You do not have self-control over the one thing that you should have control over. Right? Now, I'm not over here totting and bopping, but I had situations where I would allow certain things to, you know, run its play if it was convenient for me. So when I realized that, automatically right then and there, I'm like, okay, boom, we got to cut that shit off. I'm not doing that. So if I don't have self-control, I have to prove to myself that I have self-control. But in order to do that, I had to figure out now why I don't have self-control. Why do I allow, you know, certain things to be a goal, to be okay, foot on gas, don't stop. You get what I'm saying? And then in other instances or situations that, you know, I'll put my foot straight on stop and don't move about it. certain things that she would say kind of put me in a place of knowing that kind of like I'm here, like, yes, this is my mom, this is my grandmother, but I only got me, if that makes sense. Like I always felt like I was here by myself. I always felt alone, if you can say, if that makes sense. Like, and which can be understandable. My mother having me at 13, my grandmother raising her, her child. Even though yes, my grandmother is there, that's not my mother, right? Um, so I always kind of had this feeling of being, feeling alone. I am, of course, I'm the oldest granddaughter. My mother was the first child to have a child. So it wasn't like I had like, cousins or siblings that I could have, kind of play with. So for a long time, I kind of felt like I was alone on top of, taking on, I feel like the burden of my mother, right? So what happened was as far as like, me having self-control or losing self-control, I don't think I never had self-control. I don't think I lost it. I think I just never had self-control. I never learned how to control oneself. When, for me, if it was something, especially being young, I wanted a connection from anywhere, right? So if it was connected, if I felt connected to it, no matter what it was, okay, yeah, he a drunk boy, he liked me, and he like 10 years older than me, but he liked me. So I would find something to kind of trump how I was feeling. And then at that point, it becomes enough for me to say, okay, well, I don't need control. You know what I'm saying? I don't need self-control because this works for me. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, y'all. I'm trying to, kind of not wander off as much, but I think that's what I've learned with myself is when I realized, okay, T, you don't have self-control because you just never had self-control, but you can build self-control. You can have self-control by realizing what takes you out of control, right? And then another thing was when I started to learn, or when I got to a point of understanding self-control, I think it was like an automatic thing where it was like, okay, well, if I'm always allowing myself to be the one that dictate what keeps me in control, then I'm always going to be out of control. So then it kind of pushed me into like, okay, well, the higher person for me was always God, right? And then it was like, okay, God, like it wasn't like a thing where it's like, okay, boom. I think what happens is you kind of get like one little instance or one little insight, and then you kind of see like another word over here, and then you kind of grab onto that word, but kind of still go through the process. But then God allows you to remember that word that He allowed you to when it's when it's time for you to kind of take that next step. I think self-love, self-development it's little things throughout your life, and sometimes big things. Sometimes a lot of your childhood trauma that you have to now create into a positive way, because in all actuality, a lot of your childhood trauma created your adult trauma, right? And that's what makes it, so like nobody wants to deal with it, because now you got to go from child now to, depending on how old you are, because honey, if you in your 30s, you got to now figure things out from all that catastrophe and debris you have to clear up from your 20s. If you in your 50s, you got to clear up 20s and 30s. You get what I'm saying? So, and I get why a lot of times people who are in their 60s and their 70s, a lot of times they say, oh well, this is just me and I ain't gonna change because this is how I've always been. Because child, if they don't want to clean up those 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, that's a lot of shit to clean up, right? So for me, I'm sorry, but I want to be intentional about who I am every single day and how I'm showing up in this world, because the longer I'm here, thank you God, because I'm gonna be here a long time. Either the more work that I have to clean up or the less work that I have to clean up, and I'm just flourishing and doing, being in my purpose, right? So like I said, y'all, I think I got to that point, where I realized that, okay, I don't have self-control. The reason why I did not have self-control. So, and then what happens is now here's where the work starts to come in. Awareness and realizing certain things. The work automatically comes in when you kind of get that sense of awareness, right? But now when you're starting to like feed these feelings, okay, well, I did this, why I did this. You know what I'm saying? And it's a funny story. I'm going to get back to the self-development and, me kind of like abstaining from sex. But the funny part about how I really started to read about development, and I feel like the first actual book or theme that got me really, really, really wanting to like dive deep into my purpose. Well, dive deep into my self-love and self-development. My previous ex, after the crazy breakup that we had, y'all, I'm talking about crazy breakup. I remember him saying to me, it was this book from Iyanla Vanzant. The book is called Trust. And he goes, you need to read this book. He was like, you need to read this book. Like, you know what I'm saying? But he was like, in a real like aggressive tone, like, you need to read this motherfucking book. Like, yeah, all this shit you want to tell people about trust and this and that, blah, 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 blah. And that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. But y'all, a narcissistic man or person, period, y'all, you would really be sitting there like, do I need to read the book? Like, do I have a problem with trust? Like, seriously, y'all. So, when I tell y'all, so the book was, like, the book is from Iyanla Vanzant. The name of the book is called Trust. And the book, you can tell, honey, the book was never read. The book has, like, a covering, to the book before it was a hardback book. So it had, like, a covering to kind of, like, to protect the book itself. It's a yellow book, so it's a very light yellow book as well. So I think that's another reason why they have the cover on it. Blah blah blah. Long story short, the cover was still on the book. The actual book itself, y'all, I mean sunlight yellow, not a dirt or nothing on it. That's how you know the book was not read. Okay, so the book, he left the book after he left my house, and the book was kind of like just sitting there. And I got to the point where, y'all, I picked the book up. And I always loved Iyanla Vanzant from, her show. A lot of times people didn't like her, blah, 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 whatever. But that's a whole different day, whole different conversation. So I picked the book up, y'all. And when I tell y'all, I started to, like, I picked the book up and I read the book. When I tell y'all, let me tell y'all something. Again, when you are intentional, when you tell God, God, I hear you, God, I need you, God, I'm ready for your help. God, show me. And you really mean that. And then don't ask God for something you ain't ready for, because when he started to give it to y'all, he is not going to play. Because let me tell y'all, when I picked the book up and I started to read the book, I knew, honey, if I didn't know that God was a God, honey, I would have known right then and there was God. There was a God. Because every single thing that I felt throughout my life, through those thoughts that I don't really talk about, but it's always there, that chip that I had on my shoulder, every single thing, y'all, I felt like I was feeling, it was inside this book. Okay, boom, we're gonna get back to that book. But as far as the self-control having self-control, and me, I felt like me kind of beginning this journey. I think what happened, well, not think, but what happened first was I abstained. Like I said to myself, Tanisha, if you're not going to have intentional relationship, if you're not, first off, honestly, I was not at a place in my life, y'all, where I was ready for a relationship. I knew that I wasn't ready for a relationship. I knew at that point that there was things about me that I had to deal with. At first, I thought it was just self-control. Within that, I want to say, the same time, whenever I had that experience with, not knowing self-control, and the book, I want to say, y'all, was like within a week time of each other. So I want to say, I know for a fact that the situation with the guy happened first, and then right after that, was when I picked this book up. And when I started to read this book, y'all, then it was like, okay, hold up, wait the fuck a minute. Okay, so the book is called Trust. The book is basically, it breaks down four segments of trust, or four synopsis or things to trust, basically. So the books basically said that you should trust in God, trust in life, trust in others, and trust in self. It starts off with trusting in self first. You have to start off with trusting yourself first. It didn't even start off with God first. It started off with trusting in yourself first. And I read this book, y'all, I want to say probably 3 years ago now, so it's been a while. But in the book, it basically, it started to say, how a lot of times we allow, or a lot of times our grandparents and our parents, life, on how they were raised and the things that they do and how they do it, they basically trickle down and teaches their kids, and their kids teach their kids, and blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. And for me, it was so that topic itself, or that sentence itself, was so big on my life, was because it was so big on my life because of my past, because of me thinking that as a child, I just knew that I was supposed to be this big bright light bubble, and I was I feel like I was always like this sunshine, you know what I mean? Like, of course I was a kid, but I feel like I've always had something bigger, deeper, and deeper in me. But because of my grandmother experiences and her experience from her mother, you know what I mean? That she only taught me her experiences that have nothing to do with what my purpose is here for. Have nothing to do with what God ordained me here for. Have nothing to do with, when God said that I was going to be here, what I was going to be doing. Because now there's other people that's attached to me, and they're giving me their life experiences. And now my goal and my job now in my self-development and in my self-love is to separate and to figure out, okay, wait, that don't work for me. That do not go for me. That was my grandma's experience. This was her experience. This was their experience, right? And it was so important to me in my life, y'all, because I feel like everybody have their, family problems, or, things that they go through. But I feel like my family is a unique one. My family, our monarchy in our family is our grandmother. She would always be she would always be the monarchy. But I feel like a lot of times, like I said, I grew up in a Jehovah's Witness background, in a home, and everyone under that roof, or whoever came out of my grandmother, honey, y'all gonna follow that, okay? And if you live, like I said, you live under her roof, which is me, you're gonna follow that as well. So I think throughout my experiences, and my family experiences, you will hear like a lot. My family, they would still say up to the day, my entire family, my aunts, my mother, okay, would say they're a witness, or they would, kind of relate to being a witness, right? But only one of them out of the four of them actually, they're baptized, they attend the meetings, they're a sister, basically, right? The other, one in particularly, you know what I'm saying? I know for a fact that the only time this conversation kind of comes up is if my grandmother is in the room, or depending on who's in the room, your conversation changes. And then I started to say, okay, well, that's not how that's supposed to look. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this is what I am, this is what I am all the way around the board. I don't care who's in the room, right? So, and I said that to say, y'all, I had to realize and separate my family experiences from my experiences, right? And sometimes not because my family is talking about it means that that's even their experience, right? So then I had to realize, not necessarily being a witness as breaking a generational pattern, but speaking my truth was something that was a generational pattern, like something that I had to break. Speaking my truth, not what my grandmother says, not what my grandfather says, but what I say and what I think and what I feel. That was very important. What I learned was in the self-development journey, it's so much stuff, y'all, that I feel like goes along with it, right? So whatever that may be for you, I think a lot of times the development was a lot more tougher, more harder for me to even want to deal with, because of the trauma, or the trauma that was attached to it, right? But when I started to actually break it down, y'all, when I tell y'all, honey, I'm not going back there. Okay, I don't believe because you were molested that that's your end of the story. Okay, I don't believe that because you were raped that's your end of the story. I don't believe because you were shot that's the end of the story. Because you didn't have a father, because you didn't have a mother, because you didn't have family. Okay, whatever that may be, because you didn't grow up in a financially stable background. I do not believe that that is your end of the story. I don't. I just don't. I believe, quite frankly, those are the beginnings of your story. To be quite frank with you, I'm naturally a private person, and trying to figure out what's for me and then what's for you is a bit difficult. But I know for a fact that this is cannot be a part of it, because there's so many people that have these experiences. There's so many people that, God bless their souls, that harmed themselves. You know what I'm saying? Fatally. Instances like this. So I don't believe that this is me. This is mine. But it's just still hard to kind of get a little bit hard. I was molested at the age of 5 years old. At the age of 12, I think, and in between there, other people as well. So to be quite frank with you, and I don't even think I've ever said this. I want to say probably four to five people that put their hands on me in ways that they just was not supposed to as a child. And that is something that I think is definitely going to be news, not really news to my family that I was molested, but news that the amount of time of the people that kind of partaked in that. But I said all that to say, I think a lot of times, y'all, even my story, even having a mother at 13 years, even my mother having me at 13 years old, me being molested at 5 years old, me feeling a lot of times in ways where I was neglected, or mistreated, or my family at times was not emotionally available. All of those things create this person today. Because to know that I have a story, to know that stuff happened to me and I still choose to get up, and the only way, you guys, to actually smile and really, really have like nothing behind that smile that is holding you down, not just smiling just because the camera's on or because people is looking at you, but because you know that every single thing in your life happened to you and not for you. In order for you to get to that point, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. And let me tell you, honey, like I said, y'all, it was hard. It was hard. But to know now that I exude, honey, a frequency that I've never exuded before. To know that I'm living in my truth. To know that that 5-year-old girl that I always seen, like, in my head, just walking and being confident, and just, I always see myself on TV and on, just being a star, period. I see myself there too. I still see her, but right now, in this moment, to be able to, like, just be this high, my highest self that I always knew that I can be, that's a feeling, y'all, that I would not change for the world. Do you understand that? To know that the people that I experienced throughout my life, to know that friends that see, family members that see me even 5 years ago, and when they interact with me now, they see something different about me. They feel something different about me. And most importantly, I feel and I see it in myself. Okay? To know that I'm showing up intentional for myself every single day is the reason why self-development is so important. To know that I can walk into a room with all of my black women and my black men and say, she's beautiful, and to laugh and to be comfortable in my skin, is the reason why self-development is important. To sometimes get into a room and and you feel with every fiber of your being that this is not it, okay? Everybody having a good time and they turn it up and everything is lit, but you can feel in your spirit that this is not it, is the reason why self-development is so important. Finding your purpose and being able to actually, really step into it and walk into it with your head held high is the reason why self-development is so important. Um, to the simple stuff, as simple as, okay, this is what this look good on me. I love this. This is my color, right? As simple as you not knowing what's for you and what looks good on you. Just that simple. Just that simple is a part of you is a part of your development that's handicapped, right? Because you don't even know why you do the things that you do and how you do. I think the part of self-development is, or getting over that hump is to kind of look back and to smile at it and say, you know what? That created that did that did that. Look, now we come all over the hill. Look where that came. Look where that got me at now. Okay, I think that's the point of, really developing self. To know, to leave friends behind that, that you just don't match well with now today, and mean nothing. And don't hold any weight to it. You're not mad. You're not upset. You're not, angry, or when you see other friends and people hanging out, you're not mad at them because you know that that's okay. Like, that's not where I'm at anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's good if they choose to, if that's where they're at. And I'm happy for them, right? But quite frankly, it does nothing for me because that's just not the room that I want to be in anymore. It's simple as that. It's self-development is so important to know that when a man or a woman walks up to you and they speak and they say things that just is not on your frequency, not on your level, just not where you are at in life, is the reason why self-development is important. To know what type of man or woman that you want to come up to you. And your expectation is the reason why self-development is so important. If you have kids, in order to not pass that generational pattern, you know what I mean? To not talk at your kid and talk to your kid is the reason why self-development is so important. To want to be able to change the way you speak, or you stop using words that you use and you actually overcome it, right? And not to a point where when somebody says, oh, well, child, she don't cuss no more. She acting like she did, she acting like that. And all you gotta do is just sit there, you smile about it. Because listen, if that's what you think, okay. That's the reason why self-development is so important. Listen, finding God. Hello, let's talk about it. Finding him. To know where he at, where has he been in your life? Because a lot of times people feel like, oh, God not here. Baby, he here. He there. Just take your time. Just take your time. Take your time. Take a step back. Be honest with yourself. I think a lot of times self-development do not happen the way that we expect it to, or the way we want it to, because we cannot be honest with ourselves. Nobody want to be honest with it. Nobody want to be honest. And I think that's another reason why for me it was I'm so glad that I took the journey and I was able to be obedient and listen, because I don't want to be in groups of people or around friends that I cannot be honest with, or they cannot be honest with me. That is actually dangerous. I don't want that. I don't want that, right? Self-development looks like you don't want everybody to agree with you. You don't expect everybody to agree with you, right? Self-development is a form of communication that nobody would never understand unless you took the journey, okay? Because I had to learn, what I've learned in self-development, or, continues on this journey, is listening is the most important part of this. That saves you a lot, okay? I think for me, even like when a man talks now, or when somebody says something, I'm not quick to give them my experience. I'm not quick to tell them what I expect. I like to listen, and I've always been a good observer. But to observe, honey, with God purpose in mind, is a different type of observance, okay? And when I'm looking and people don't, they looking like, well, why are you looking at that? That's the reason why, you guys, I think, or my 2 cents, my 5 cents on why self-love, why self-development is so important. okay? If anyone has any questions, anybody need any help on, anything, especially when it comes down to developing yourself, your true self, what makes you you, right? I think that was so important. I think what I love about my development is, again, it don't matter what room I'm in. It doesn't matter what conversation I'm having. My conversation of self do not change. Period. It don't change depending on what room I'm in, right? And I think a lot of times too, I had to learn, like I said in my last episode, was because I'm naturally a server. I have to really, really be aware of when I'm serving and when I'm people pleasing. I'm not in a yearn to be agreed with. More than I'm more in a yearning to have connections, right? To have a clear understanding, and also too, I think what I had to learn, if you're not at a place in your life where you're a student and you're a good student, right? In order to be a good student, you have to be a good listener, right? And I had to learn how to pick up and train myself to just listen. Not listening to a response, but listen to actually understand whether I'm reading something, whether somebody's saying something, whether I'm listening to something, what is it, right? And then also too, that's a different level. What do God want you to get out of this information? Come on, right? So again, I think when I started to be intentional, when I started to get serious, and we have to realize, honey, life is a serious thing. This ain't no play. Okay, this is not no play. Okay, you ain't going in the middle of the streets and just playing ball. Not on no highway, not on no interstate. It ain't happening. Like I said, you guys, if anybody, we're still early in the year, it's still January. I feel like if it's one thing that we should all start this year and really be serious with it, right? And that's another thing I have to kind of put in here, self-development. I cannot stand, or I dislike when I hear people say, oh yeah, I'm working on my self-love, and they like, oh yeah, I started yesterday, or I started a week ago, and I started a month ago, and oh yeah, I changed. That does something to me. Oh yeah, I changed. I changed. How? That's the segment of why is it so important to find self-love and to do the self-love work, okay? Another thing I'm gonna have to close this off with, please understand that self-love is not a destination. It is a journey, okay? This is something that is continuous. There's things about myself, you guys, that worked for me last year that do not work for me this year. There's things about myself that worked for me a week ago that do not work for me this week ago. I think self-development is an everyday evolving thing. You know what I'm saying? Whether if it's just the smallest things in your life that you do evolve. I think the most important part of my development this year is not just getting closer to God, but I think it's more of me understanding his stories and the things that happen in the Bible. So when certain things happen, I'm like, wait, but when Goliath, say, or when, like, I can sit there and I can say things and, kind of use those stories for the betterment of whatever it is that I'm dealing with, if that makes sense, right? So that's my goal. That is my, I guess, part of my development this year. I think the good part of the one part I know and I feel in my heart, like I said, I feel like self-development, self-love, self-care is definitely a connection to God. Even if you don't understand it, if you choose to remove him out of that part of development, doesn't necessarily say that you don't develop, but the resources and the things that come along with including him, it's abundant. Okay, so that's the reason why for me, honey, my self-development looked the way it looked. Everybody's self-development, I think it's different. God don't give everybody the same development, because we don't have the same experiences, right? So everybody's self-development is different, but I feel like the message itself is the same. And y'all ready? Okay, so we're gonna do a did you know. Let's get into it. Did you know lobsters have clear blood? You knew that? Cause I ain't know that. What? Hold on. Okay, so they say most of us are well aware that lobster shells change color when exposed to heat, like in a pot of boiling water, for example. But the sea creature's blood is also intriguing. Lobster blood is initially clear and turns blue when it hits oxygen. What? Clear blood? Like, quit playing with me. So you really trying to tell me like, but it turns blue when it hits oxygen. So, but I ain't never seen like lobster blood even blue. Tell me, have y'all ever seen lobster blood blue? Because I'm thinking like, okay, if it's clear, so you're trying to tell me I could literally be eating the lobster and not even know that I'm eating its blood because it's clear. How the fuck would I know? You feel me? Like, that's kind of crazy to me. And I love seafood. If anybody know me, y'all know. Crabs, lobster, shrimp, scallops, calamari. You talking about? Oysters. Like, these are things that I like. I love those things. I love them things. So, yeah, like, it turns clear. It's clear. Lobster blood is clear. Y'all, just to let y'all know, when y'all taking them stuff out that shell, y'all cutting it up, and y'all better make sure, wash that sucker off real good, because I ain't know that. Wait, if the lobster blood is clear, what about the lobster tail? Because it's not the whole body. I ain't never seen blood on a lobster tail, though. Or did I? How would I know? Because it's clear. I don't know. But that's what they said, y'all. Next on the docket. Next, y'all. I'm going to do two. I only do one, did you know, per podcast or per audio, per video, whatever. But I had to do this one, y'all. Because I low-key felt like I heard about this story years ago. But I didn't hear the whole details of this. Albert Einstein passed away on April 18, 1995. He left behind specific instructions when it came to the disposal of his body. According to one National Geographic investigation, Einstein didn't want his corpse to be worshipped. That's what it was. Or his brain to be studied. So he instructed those who were responsible for his remains to be cremated and scattered the ashes secretly in order to discourage idlers. Boom. So the person that was in charge, or that was over Einstein's body when he died, he cut the man's brains, y'all, and his eyeball. What the fuck? The eyeball? So what you want to do? You want to see what he was seeing too? Like, what you took the man's eyeball for? The eyeball? It's giving very much Jeffrey Dahmer, whatever his name is. That's what it's giving. Yeah. But took his eyeball, and the man said he do not want his body, to be worshipped. Cremate him. That's what he said. He told these people that cremate him. So they all was like, yeah, I got you. Oh, yeah, of course, I would definitely do that. Of course, you're so appreciative. You're so well respected. Child, that man died. They said, open up, and went into the man's head, took his brains, took his eyeballs. The person who, it's an exact name for this person, right? But I'll just say doctor. The doctor who cut out his brains and his eyeball, guess what he did after he cut it out? Check again. He called New York Times because he money hungry. Clout been around since that man wanted some clout. Okay? Called New York Times, told the people, oh yeah, he got the brains. Cut the brains, cut it up into I think it was over 100 pieces, way over 100 pieces of the brains. And they said that his brain was supposed to have been taken in to be tested, to try to figure out why, he was this smart person, right? Just a sidebar, come to find out, Einstein's brain was actually smaller than the normal man. Just a one, too. But yeah, so he cut it up, right, and was supposed to, I guess, distribute it to these scientists' labs or whatever. Long story short, y'all, never happened. That man got the brains, put it in the closet, and said, "That's just that. It is what it is." So that was really something, y'all. That's how you literally, y'all. That's when when people say, when you dead, that's when when you pass, that's your final stage of life. For real, for real, that's your final stage because it ain't like he could come back and be like, "Y'all punch in your face. Didn't I tell you to cremate my body?" But how y'all know? Because he was really smart. He probably find a way to come back alive and just slap the shit out of him just for not listening. Because he was a really smart man. He probably did. Who knows? That man probably was laying down in bed one day and Einstein was over him like, "What's up, ho?" And he's like, he got real scared. Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. What you thought? Bitch, you thought I was smart for nothing? Bitch, you thought I wouldn't be back? What's wrong with you? I asked you to do something and you ain't do it. Huh? So, bring your ass here. And then he went, y'all, and he took the rest of the man brains and he gave it, I think, to some museum. So that's actually, to be honest, they didn't tell you that part. They said, they talk about, oh yeah, the man years later gave the brains to, I think it's some museum. No, they ain't tell y'all. Einstein came and pull up on his ass and was like, "Listen, pussy asshole, bitch, fuck wrong with you, bitch? I told you to do something, you ain't do it. I knock your head off right now, dog, and that's on P and L. Fuck wrong with you, dog? Get my shit back." And that's what happened. So, there goes your did you know part of the segment. All right, so that is it, you guys. That is it. This was a very, very very intentional audio today, or podcast today. Very intentional. I love the fact that I was able to, speak about the most important parts of finding your purpose. I guess for me, I wandered off y'all here a little bit, not as much as I typically do, because y'all know I'm very much long-winded. I kind of feel like I low key have ADHD because I cannot stay on track for nothing. I really feel like I have ADHD for real. Like, whatever that thing is, like where you could be talking about something and you could look at something else or think about something else and your mind naturally goes to that and you continuously talk about it, that's me, ADHD. I really feel like I have that for real. But such is life, okay? Alrighty, guys, word of the day. You already know what to do. Like I said, if you forgot, make sure you go ahead. You gotta be the first one, not the second, not the third. Go ahead, be the first one in my DMs on IG. All right, go ahead and put that word of the day. The word has to be spelled correctly, okay? And once you go ahead and you send me your send the word of the day, you're gonna get a message from me saying to send me your Cash App, okay? Want to send your Cash App? You get a little blessing here and there, you know what I'm saying? Get a little sandwich on the house. Like I said, honey, don't expect nothing crazy. Hello, somebody. I want to be a blessing, okay? It might not be abundant, but it's a blessing. Come on, somebody. And the word of the day, you guys, is purpose. I love you so much. This, like I said, was such an amazing episode today. I hope you guys learned something, thought about something. Did you think about it? Did you think about it? I hope so. You already know it's your girl Niecy from the Think About It podcast.